One moment everything feels close, warm, connected, and then suddenly she's distant. Replies slow down, energy changes, affection cools off. And you're left replaying every interaction, wondering what you did wrong after things finally felt real. This is one of the most confusing dynamics men experience because it doesn't follow logic. Intimacy is supposed to create closeness, not distance. So when she pulls back right after a moment of connection, the instinct is to chase clarity, ask questions, or overcorrect to get things back on track. But that reaction is exactly what makes the situation worse. What most men don't realize is that distance after intimacy isn't always about loss of attraction. In many cases, it's about fear, loss of control, or unresolved emotional patterns that get activated when closeness becomes real. Intimacy doesn't just bond people, it exposes them. And not everyone is comfortable with what gets exposed. In this video, we're going to break down why some women act distant after intimacy, what's actually happening beneath the surface, and how a man should respond without chasing, panicking, or losing his frame. Because how you handle this moment often decides whether respect stays or disappears. For some women, intimacy doesn't feel safe. It feels threatening. Not because the moment wasn't genuine, but because closeness removes the emotional distance they rely on to feel in control. When intimacy happens, walls come down, expectations rise, and suddenly, the dynamic shifts from something light and contained to something real. That's where fear enters. Intimacy exposes patterns people work hard to avoid. Attachment wounds, fear of abandonment, fear of being seen too deeply, or fear of losing autonomy. When those fears are activated, pulling away feels like self-protection. Distance becomes a way to regulate discomfort rather than a reflection of how she feels about you. This is why the pullback often happens after things go well. The connection becomes undeniable, and with that comes vulnerability. For someone who isn't emotionally secure, vulnerability feels like risk. So instead of leaning in, they retreat. Men often misinterpret this as rejection or loss of attraction, but in many cases, it's neither. It's a nervous system response to closeness. The problem isn't the intimacy, it's what intimacy demands: presence, consistency, and emotional accountability. Understanding this distinction matters because reacting as if you've been rejected pushes the situation in the wrong direction. The fear isn't about you failing, it's about closeness becoming real. Emotional vulnerability changes the power dynamic. Once intimacy happens, there's more at stake. Feelings are involved, expectations exist, and the connection can no longer be dismissed as casual. For a woman who is comfortable with distance but uneasy with depth, that shift creates internal pressure. Vulnerability requires consistency. It requires showing up the same way tomorrow as you did yesterday. And for someone who associates closeness with loss, disappointment, or being trapped, that consistency feels suffocating rather than reassuring. So instead of communicating that discomfort, she creates space. This is where men often get it wrong. They respond to her distance by over-explaining, checking in more, or trying to fix the shift. But that reaction unintentionally confirms the very fear she's trying to escape. That closeness will bring obligation, emotional weight, or loss of control. What looks like indifference is often avoidance. What feels like rejection is often self-regulation. She's not pulling away to punish you, she's pulling away to calm herself. And this is why staying grounded matters. When you don't chase vulnerability, don't interrogate distance, and don't emotionally spike in response, you stop feeding the cycle. You show that intimacy doesn't equal pressure, that steadiness is what either brings her back into alignment or reveals that she's not capable of sustained closeness. Either outcome gives you clarity. This is where most men misread the situation. They assume distance means she's losing interest, when in reality, she may be losing control over how the connection is affecting her. Those two things look similar on the surface, but they come from very different places. When a woman loses interest, her disengagement is steady and directional. She doesn't oscillate. She doesn't hover. She doesn't go warm again after space. Her energy simply fades and doesn't return. There's clarity in it, even if it hurts. When she's losing control, the distance is inconsistent. One day she's cold, the next, she's curious. She pulls back, then checks in. She goes quiet, then reacts strongly to your absence. That push-pull isn't about you lacking value. It's about her struggling to regulate how much the intimacy affected her. Intimacy removes emotional leverage. Once feelings are involved, she can no longer pretend she's unaffected. For someone who relies on distance to feel safe, that loss of leverage creates anxiety. So she steps back to regain footing. The mistake men make is trying to force clarity in a moment that requires composure. When you chase answers, you frame the situation as rejection. When you stay grounded, you allow the truth to surface on its own. Distance reveals intention over time. If she returns with consistency, it was fear. If she disappears completely, it was disinterest. Either way, staying centered protects your self-respect, and that matters more than decoding her behavior in the moment. This is the moment that defines everything. Not what she does, but how you respond. Most men swing to extremes. They either chase for reassurance or shut down completely out of pride. Both reactions give away control. The grounded response sits in the middle. You don't interrogate the distance. You don't over-explain yourself. And you don't punish her with silence. You simply stay consistent in who you are. Calm, present, unmoved. You continue living your life, maintaining your pace, your standards, and your emotional stability. When you don't react emotionally, you remove pressure from the connection. You show that intimacy didn't destabilize you, and that alone is powerful. It communicates safety without words. It also makes one thing very clear. You are not dependent on her closeness to stay centered. If her distance was driven by fear, your steadiness gives her room to return without feeling chased or cornered. If her distance was driven by disinterest, your lack of reaction prevents you from losing dignity or self-respect, trying to pull something back that's already gone. Either way, you win clarity. A man doesn't keep intimacy by demanding it. He keeps it by showing that closeness doesn't make him lose himself. Distance after intimacy doesn't need to confuse you, unless you let it. When you understand that closeness can trigger fear, loss of control, or unresolved patterns in someone else, you stop internalizing their pullback as a verdict on your worth. The mistake is reacting emotionally. The strength is staying grounded. You don't chase answers. You don't retreat into silence to protect your ego. You hold your frame and let behavior reveal the truth over time. If she returns with consistency, you know the distance was fear. If she doesn't, you've just been spared investing deeper into someone who couldn't meet you there. Either way, you keep your self-respect intact. If you're learning how to handle moments like this without losing yourself, hit follow. This is how you rise above confusion and move with clarity.